Let me ask you about Beltran, because I like Carlos, and I remember we used to argue about the guy. I loved Beltran. I never thought of him necessarily as a Hall of Famer, but he's going to get in. Like, he's trending in that direction. If he gets...
Because they're hosing him because of the Houston, because of the scandal thing. Let's be honest.
They may a little bit, but he's already at 70%. Right. I think he's getting to 75 next year or the year after. I'd be stunned if he's not. And then he's going in as a Met. And we do not have a lot of Mets in the Hall of Fame, so... Do we retire his number? Like, what is the legacy now of Beltran if he's going to be one of the rare guys in the history of our franchise who's going to wear the hat of our team
I think you have
in the
to.
Hall of Fame?
I think you have to.
Well, first of all, I'd like to see Keith Hernandez in the Hall of Fame before I see Carlos Beltran in the Hall of Fame.
I understand.
And I'll say that, and I could go on and on about the Hall of Fame. You know how I feel about this baseball, right? You know what I think about these guys, okay? Yes. You don't even want to get me started on him, you know. But you know, I think Hernandez and Don Mattingly should be a tandem team going in together. But that's me. You know, I really warmed up to Beltran. You know, I didn't love him in the beginning. I really warmed up to him because he got screwed with the Houston thing. The Mets made a mistake of not leaving him as the manager. You know, Wilpon and company should have showed some gallones and just let him be the manager. So he got hosed there. He's getting hosed for the Hall of Fame now because everybody else seems to be okay except for Beltran. He seems still to be getting hosed. Yeah, I mean, if he put him in, I don't care. Look, the way the Hall of Fame is now, you might as well put him in. Put him in the Hall of Fame. And, yeah, I think if he makes the Hall of Fame, you got to put number 15 up there, don't you?
Well, look at all those numbers we're going to have now. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Unbelievable, all these numbers.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's fine. Look, you know what? I know you weren't crazy about that, but
it's
fine with me, bro. I mean, you know, guys that were consequential to this franchise, and I think every guy that's up there, and I'm even good with Willie Mays, I think every guy that's up there, you know, was consequential to this franchise.
No doubt.
And I think if he's going in the Hall of Fame, and I think it's only Seaver and Piazza that have the Met logo on their Hall of Fame plaques. You're right. Beltran's going to go in as a Met, and yeah, okay, I got no issue with it. Let's go. But I'm still leery that they're going to continue to hose him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the numbers are trending where he'll get in, but we shall see. Joe,
but I'm still livid over Billy Wagner. Oh, Billy Wagner. Let me tell you, who's next? Benitez? Put Benitez in?
Braden
what a disgrace. Tell me this. What has do you think Billy Wagner's a Hall of Famer?
My gut has been no, but I also think, like, look, Billy Wagner was forget us for a second, because obviously I have the same feelings that you just laid out, the biases towards what he did for our team. Like, he didn't come through in a big spot, and to me, he cost the Mets the pennant. So I'm with you, and I try to separate that and say, all right, he was a hell of a closer for the Astros. He was good for the few years he was in Philly. I just, like, to me, Trevor Hoffman, as much as he sucked in a big spot, and Mariano Rivera, they're the guys for that era. Obviously, you go back further, you got Dennis Eckersley, other guys. And so Wagner doesn't match them. And so it's weird for me to put them in, because I agree with you. If Billy's in, now you open the door to a lot of other guys. I guess Craig Kimbrell, a Hall of Famer? He kind of is.
Franco, to me, it's Franco. I think Franco had 428 saves, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. How many did Wagner have?
I got to check that. Well, but you know what? I got a question for you sort of related to this, because someone asked me this on my podcast.
Right.
And this includes more guys than me, because for me, I don't remember Toggin, Jesse, or Roscoe to include them, because I don't have a gut feeling. Games on the line, which relief pitcher in the history of the New York Mets do you trust the most to get the biggest out?
Probably Tug McGraw.
Okay. Because believe it or not, my answer for my lifetime was John Franco. I was like, because you know what? Okay. I'll tell you this about John Franco.
You didn't see McGraw.
I can't include Tug because I didn't have the gun of like.
McGraw was the closer on two championship teams, the one with the Mets and the one with the Phillies in 1980.
Yeah. One thing about Franco that was very different than Billy Wagner and Armando Benitez is I never thought the moment was going to get to him. Yeah. If he gave up a save, it wasn't going to be because of the moment. It would just be because his, changeup got tattooed.
Johnny, if you're listening to me now, because Johnny and I had our battles over the years, and I think, we did. I mean, the one time with him and Leiter, I thought they were going to tar and feather me in the locker room one time.
Right.
But Johnny and I have certainly, whatever differences we had, I got great respect for him. He had big ones, bro. Right. Like you said, I mean, he was never afraid of the moment. He didn't get it done every time, but nobody has.
Joe,
he had big ones, and I think if you're putting Wagner in the Hall of Fame, John Franco should be in.
422 saves Billy Wagner had. He threw about 300 less innings than John Franco, but had about, 200 more strikeouts.
Wow, he was a big strikeout.
He was a big strikeout guy.
How many saves for Franco, Tiki?
424.
422
so
for Billy.
He had more saves than Wagner.
By two. Yeah,
by
422 for Billy, 424 for Franco.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if you're going to put Billy Wagner in, then you got to put John Franco in. And I'm going to give you a guy, too. Here's a guy with CC going in. Come on. I mean, I'm not knocking CC. Okay, not at all. Got great respect for him. But you got to, you got to tell me he was better than Andy Pettitte? Are you going to tell me that? I don't know about that.
No, I think he was.
Okay, David Cohn. He wasn't better than David Cohn. But I'm going to give you.
Yeah, Cohn and Santana. David Cohn and Yohan Santana are two guys I think should be reevaluated based on how. Like Santana for 5 years was the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, won 2 Cy Youngs, the whole thing. I understand.
I don't mean to knock Andy Pettitte. I just think, like, to me, CC was an ace. Andy was always a good number 2. Right. You know what I mean? But yeah, I get your point. I get what you're saying. I guess.
But here's the guy that should be in the Hall of Fame. It's not. And this has been brought to my attention, and I wasn't even thinking about this guy. Yeah. Tommy John won 288 games. Now, I understand we don't get crazy about wins, but back then it was a big deal. His ERA, I believe, is less than CC's. I think it was 3.34 was his ERA. And wait a minute, they named the surgery after.
That's why he should be in just for that.
Right.
It is.
Are you telling me that he's not a Hall of Famer?
Look, it is a museum, but you look at the strikeout numbers; they're much less. Andy Pettitte is under 2,500 strikeouts.
Yeah, that's overrated. Strikeouts are overrated too.
Yeah, but I think ERA is overrated too. And Evan and I talked about this yesterday because what made CC so great is that he'd get banged around and stay in the game.
Yeah, he gave innings, man.
Right, and so he gave
the innings. He was a horse. I mean, there's no doubt. There's no question. I mean, from that aspect. But there's a lot of guys, man. I get very wired up when it comes to the Hall of Fame. I feel like all the steroid guys should be in, every one of them.
Yeah, but it seems like that's over because A-Rod is 37. What was his number?
Yeah, I know, and I think Manny Ramirez
the wrong way. Yeah, they're never getting in.
Yeah, but they should be in. I mean, we're talking about there should be something for these guys. There's too many great players that they're leaving out of the Hall of Fame. And if you're going to put Bud Selig, who's already in the Hall of Fame, when he knew what was going on, I mean, let's tell it like it is.
Right.
If you think that Selig didn't know when McGuire and Sosa were going for the home run chase in '98 what was happening, think again.
Hey, but hold on. But from a Bud Selig standpoint, without him admitting that he knew, it helped baseball. So in some regard, doing his job, which is helping baseball, he got it by ignoring it. He did baseball a favor.
He did baseball a favor, and he holds the guys who were doing it for him. And I'm going to give you another guy that should be in the Hall of Fame, and he's not a player, but it is a disgrace that George Steinbrenner is not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I think you can make a case for John Franco to be a Hall of Famer. Now, I never thought that while watching him.
Yeah.
But remember, and by the way, I heard the morning show. I had this ready to go anyway off of last night, but I heard the morning show playing a clip of Benigno, who was bitching about Billy Wagner getting in and saying.
He was complaining?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's Joe. Yeah, he's complaining.
Joe.
He doesn't want Vlad. He wants Pete back. And he doesn't want Wagner in the Hall of Fame. He wants Franco in the Hall of Fame. But I do think it's an interesting thing to bring up. At the time where I was watching Franco, remember, relievers weren't as big of a deal as it seems like they are now. And
well, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah,
Rich Gossage, Lee Smith, Bruce Sutter, Dave Righetti. You kidding me?
As far as getting in the Hall of Fame, like Hoffman wasn't in. Remember, it took Lee Smith a long time. So I don't even think Hoffman's that great. Now he has 600-something saves, so he's obviously got to be in, right?
I was never a big Hoffman guy. I really wasn't.
Okay, so he wasn't dominant the way that you would expect. Like Wagner, to me, was dominant. But Franco's got more saves than Billy Wagner. Lee Smith is ERA. Franco's got a better ERA than Lee Smith. I mean, Johnny, at the very least, BT, is on par with Lee Smith. He wasn't as dominant as Wagner. You know Franco's career ERA?
I'm looking at it, and I got to tell you, I'm surprised by it.
Me too.
I did not think it was that low.
2.89.
I would have guessed, 3.26. That's a lot lower than I thought.
Trevor Hoffman, and I looked this up just a little bit before. I think Hoffman was, Hoffman 2.87. Now, again, Hoffman has the 600 saves.
And Johnny's got about 450, right? Where is he at?
424. So he's got more saves than Wagner, and he's got a better ERA, similar ERA to Hoffman.
Yep.
Better ERA than Lee Smith. I mean, I think you could actually make a case. Now, again, I know it may sound nuts to my friends, like, he played for 21 years. To have that ERA as a closer for 21 years, by the way, when maybe he got robbed of some saves because back then in the 80s and early 90s, pitchers were going deeper into games.
True.
I I never really gave it much thought. I think now with Wagner in, with Hoffman in, certainly with Lee Smith, who's got in a while ago, I do think you could make a legitimate case for Johnny Franco being an All-Star, Hall of Famer.
What are his comps? I'm just out of curiosity. I'll give you my opinion on that. By the way, postseason ERA 1.88, just to further validate. Yeah,
there you go.
Let's see.
I pitched in a World Series, at least one. Was he with the Reds in? No, he was not. 90.
Wow, he only got 4.6% of the votes. Yikes, that's low.
Yeah, well, maybe he gets one of those veterans.
Maybe that wouldn't surprise me.
Lee Smith had a 3.03 ERA and 478 saves,
and played on a lot of bad Cub teams too. Remember the?
And was never dominant. Like at least
I thought Lee was good. I thought Lee was more dominant at his apex than John. I never looked at John as dominant. That's the problem.
You have
John
Franco's numbers up?
I do. But let me just give you the similarity scores because this will get. So the names most closely related to him. And if you know Baseball Reference, you know similarity scores, you know what I mean, what I'm saying here. If not, just go look it up. It'll take forever to explain. Lee Smith, Sparky Lyle, Jeff Reardon, Kent Tekulve, K-Rod, Raleigh Fingers, all right, Tug McGraw, Jesse Orozco. My first reaction is John Franco was not a Hall of Famer.
Agreed.
It's my first reaction.
Me too.
I also didn't think he had a sub-3 ERA. That did surprise me a bit. And I will admit, I'm a little biased. What was his best pitch? The slider, the changeup? It was a secondary pitch, not a fastball. I think it was a changeup. I think it was a changeup, right?
Kind of a little squeegee too, like down and in.
Yes, it would kind of bend, like almost toward the ankles. It was had a little screwball element. You're right. And when I look at a pitcher like that, maybe it's unfair to me, but as a closer,
because he wasn't a power guy.
I want some guess.
Yeah,
that's why Hoffman's best pitch was a changeup too. When I got a guy coming out of the bullpen and there's 2 on, 2 out, last inning, 8th inning, high leverage, whatever it is, I want to know that I got a guy who's going to throw 3 fastballs or like Mo 3 cutters. He's going to break a bat or you're not touching it. And John Franco was not that. I never thought he was a Hall of Famer. Close.
Right, but now with others getting in, that you could also argue.
More open to him getting a lot more consideration.
Right?
I would be.
Because initially, I honestly thought maybe he was just joking around. And then I was I gave it some thought. And I'm looked up some of the numbers. Hey.
Yeah, it's interesting.
If you have the ERA that's on par with some guys who are in or better than that, and you have the total amount of saves that are on par or better, he's got more saves than Wagner. And Wagner was more dominant, so I always skewed dominant.
Me too.
But Lee Smith, Hoffman, Johnny was just as good.
The other thing, too, because, Franco, as we know, was not a career Met.
Yes.
I was going to say, obviously, with Cincinnati. And I didn't even realize, I figured he made one. He made 3 All-Star teams with the Reds. 3.
That's what I'm saying. So
3 with the Reds.
Before he got here.
With the Reds.
Yeah.
Now, listen, we do baseball cards, and that was right in my wheelhouse. I'm watching the Yanks and the Mets every night. I did not realize he made 3 All-Star teams with the Reds. Let's just say he was a career Met, and it came up Tidewater, comes to the Mets in the 84.
3 of those All-Star games with the Mets.
Yeah, and now it's 4 with the Mets. Is my perception a little slanted? Quite frankly, it probably would be, because for me, especially before cable and MLB Network, what you did in other cities back then, it was more obscurity. Again, still first glance, no, but.
You have him up right there,
yeah,
Franco? Did he ever lead the league in saves? And if he did, how many times?
He led the league in saves 3 times, which is not something I would have guessed either. I would have thought maybe once.
I think Lee Smith did it 4. Franco should be in. If Lee Smith's going to be in, I think you can make a very good case for Johnny Franco to be in.